Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is, wherever you are. Thank you for listening to the Backlog Busting Project. My name is Wes. With me, as always, is Randy.
Wes, it's that time again.
Yes, it is. It's coming up on a Friday the 13th again.
Yes.
And last time we did something a little interesting, and we're going to keep doing it. So how this episode is going to work is not the next episode after this one, but the episode after that. So in about a month from now, we'll have an episode that records right around Friday the 13th. And how we're going to handle that is, instead of us choosing our games for ourselves, we have each chosen a game for each other, and we're going to let you, the audience, choose our co-played game.
Yep, so you have 2 weeks to help us decide what game we're both going to play, and we figured this was the second Friday the 13th episode. We've already kind of had a bunch of sequels go down in 2016, so we're making a sequel version of Friday the 13th.
Yeah. So, we're going to go ahead and announce the games that you'll be voting for right now. And, over the next 2 weeks, we'll have the candidate platforms coming out again, to kind of give a brief description of the games, and, you can figure out how you want to vote. The games you will get to choose from are as follows. First off, for making it to, I believe it was 500, wasn't it?
No, 250.
To making it to 200.
This was 500.
Oh, your hair was 500.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Which still looks pretty blue. Even, 2 months later, almost?
Or a month.
Month and a half? Yeah. Anyway, for reaching $250 in the Extra Life Marathon, Hotline Miami 2. And the reason why Randy is clapping, should be obvious.
This is Wes clapping. Wes wants us to be voted.
No.
Wes wants us to be voted on. Yes.
No.
Yes. Wes, stop clapping. We have a podcast to do, Wes. Come on, Wes.
Hey. I have the final edit power. I can make you look really fucking ridiculous. Just a fair warning. Anyway, as I was trying to say, that game is notorious for being my least favorite game on this project by a pretty I may have to rethink that statement. It's down there near the bottom of games I highly dislike as a result of this project. So the running gag has always been when something comes up that I don't like, or just, about once every episode just to needle me, Randy will mention Hotline Miami in some form or another. So yeah, Hotline Miami 2. Next up, Super Mario Brothers 2. And by this we mean the United States version of the game, not Lost Levels, which Randy played last time.
Yep.
Then there's also Half-Life 2, which I'm pretty sure PC gamers around the world are going, neither of you have played Half-Life 2 or beaten Half-Life 2?
I've played it, I haven't finished it, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then Final Fantasy 2, which I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh my god. Don't.
And yes, we're talking about the real Final Fantasy 2, not the original Final Fantasy 2 from America thing.
Yeah.
That was 4.
Yeah, that ended up being the 4th from Japan. We're talking Final Fantasy 2, the game that originally released with a combat system so broken the only way to gain HP was to sit there and hit your own characters. That Final Fantasy 2.
Yeah.
And then finally, this one kind of got thrown on because of recent events. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, because it is technically the second game in the Kingdom Hearts series, is the final option. So, once again, just real quickly, Final Fantasy 2, Half-Life 2, Hotline Miami 2, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, and Super Mario Bros. 2. One of those 5 games will be our co-played game for episode 34, and you get to decide. Going live with this recording will be the poll for you to vote in. So vote early and or wait until the candidate platforms come out. But vote, and you get to decide what game we play for episode 34. That all being said, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get on with this episode because it is episode 32. So we've got a little bit to go before then. We're going to start off as we always do, play or nay. And first off is a couple of games releasing today. starting with Ratchet and Clank coming out for the PlayStation 4 on today, the 12th, developed by Insomniac Games, and this is basically a reboot. From what I understand, this is a reboot of the PS2 franchise to go along with the movie that's coming out in theaters, which I remember when this was announced, people were kind of like, "Oh wow, they're going really hard in on the multimedia sort of aspect of it." Ratchet and Clank is a platformer with a strong emphasis on weapon customization, if I remember correctly. Or weapon selection. Like, there's a lot of different weapons you can use. From what I've seen of some of the gameplay trailers, this also looks like Insomniac took some of the stuff they learned from Sunset Overdrive and put it in here. Like, there's a little bit of, motion, a lot of attention paid to the motion in the game. So, the thing with this is once again, this is a series I never really originally played. So, I don't really have the nostalgia factor for it, but it does still look like a pretty solidly constructed game, and a lot of people had a lot of good things to say about Ratchet and Clank, the original games, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a very slight play.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would never have played a Ratchet and Clank game in my life. I need to. I mean to. They'll end up on here at some point. They do look very enjoyable. As far as this reboot goes, we'll wait and see. I'm like you, where it's one of those, I want to go back and play some of the old ones first, and then go from there, but it's a play.
Well, to clarify, I'm not saying I want to go back and play the originals before I play this one. I want to play any of them, really. Yeah. So yeah, slight play. Looks interesting. Moving along to the other big release of today, and by other, I mean probably the one people have been waiting for a long time, Dark Souls 3.
You sadistic mother.
Beep. Anyway, coming out for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on April 12th. This has actually already been out in Japan for 3 weeks.
Because they're more sadistic than we are.
Apparently. Also, or either that or the developers, Bandai Namco Games, don't understand that this is 2016 and there's really no goddamn reason to have staggered release dates anymore. I mean, I'm not even a fan of the series, and I still think a staggered release is idiotic. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of Twitch streamers I watch were excited for this game, and a lot of their internal debate was, okay, do I spring for the Japanese version, or do I wait for the American version?
And you sit here and say it's stupid to have a staggered release? You just said that they were thinking about buying both copies. Well, that doubles your sales, sir.
The thing about that is that's just because they knew, because remember, Twitch streaming for a lot of the full-time streamers is a business. And if you lose your viewers, you lose your business. And they wanted to keep viewers, so a lot of viewers wanted to see Dark Souls 3, so the question was, do I get Dark Souls 3 in a language I can't read simply to keep viewers? Or do I hold off, lose viewers to other people who either can read Japanese or don't care? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I still see no stupid in it. It's still extra sales.
Still a very small portion of the audience, though.
But it's not going to lose sales.
Yeah, you never know.
Nobody's going to go, well, I have to wait 3 weeks, then I'm not playing it at all.
Yeah. It still kind of engenders, negative opinion, though.
It's the internet. Everything brings
okay, yeah,
negative
good point.
opinion.
Good point. Anyway, how about Dark Souls 3 game-wise? I don't think either of us has really played this series much. I think you have Bloodborne.
No, I haven't touched the series. I need to. I mean, it's one of those that I'm very scared of because it's going to break controllers.
Yeah, I know Demon's Souls was a PS Plus game, and I got it when it was on PS Plus thinking, okay, I want to try this. And then Dark Souls kind of was born out of Demon's Souls. And I kind of want to try it, but at the same time, I'm with you. I'm not sure how I'd handle apparently this game is lauded for being controller-breakingly difficult. You've already broken one controller on a game that didn't have that qualifier.
Well, because that was a broken game. I don't break controllers over difficulty. I break them because the gameplay doesn't work. But this is the way I look at Dark Souls 3. It's Dark Souls 3, which means this is their third opportunity to piss off gamers and make it even more hard. They have now learned over time how to make it even more difficult. So I'm going back and playing the first one before I ever even think about playing the third one. Because I can't imagine how difficult this third one's going to be, especially for someone that doesn't understand the tropes that are in Dark Souls.
Okay. So I think it's kind of I think neither of us has officially said it, but I think it's a slight play for both of us. It's just kind of we have to get to the point where we feel confident enough to do it. So yeah, there's that happening.
It's a play in 2020.
Yeah, really, at this rate. So yeah, there we go. From Dark Souls 3 to something a little bit more lighthearted fare. I mean, it's not exactly lollipops and rainbows, but something a little lighter than Dark Souls 3 at least. It is Bravely Second End Layer, coming out for the 3DS on the 15th, developed by Square Enix. This is the sequel to kind of one of the sleeper hits of 2000. I want to say it was 14. Bravely Default Flying Fairy. This is basically
what?
Flying Fairy, I believe, was the subtitle.
I thought you said Flying Ferret. I was into that. Somebody make that game, please.
Yeah. the behemoths on it already after Pit People. Anyway, when Bravely Default came out, a lot of people whose opinion I trust were basically calling it Final Fantasy made by not Nomura, and this is like Final Fantasy in all but name was a lot of the things I was hearing about this title.
Hold on.
Like old school Final Fantasy.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, no, like old school Final Fantasy. So yeah, this game finally was released for a Western release. There's our English moment for the podcast.
You're going to have a lot more.
Anyway, so when this game was announced, people noticeably lost their shit. It's basically more of everything that was appreciated about the first game. The battle system returns. There's several new jobs and classes, abilities. So, I am, as you probably know if you've been listening to this podcast for any reasonable length of time, I am a RPG fan.
No.
Yeah. So, I've always wanted to get around to playing the first Bravely Default, and I will also want to get around to playing this one eventually. It's a play for me.
It's an RPG on the 3DS. Yeah. I'm in.
Okay.
At some point, I'm in. Maybe once this podcast finally dies and I have time for RPGs again. Because that is the one thing I have learned over the little over a year of this. Yeah. Playing an RPG for the podcast makes me hate RPGs. Not because I don't enjoy them, but because I don't have the time to enjoy them. I have to rush through them.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe we need to think about maybe doing a format change on this podcast. We kind of talked about it before the 1 year anniversary, but like splitting up a little bit. But we'll see. Because it hasn't affected me that much. But at any rate, last on the Player Nay docket is Star Fox Zero and Star Fox Guard, which, yes, I am counting as one game, even though they're two separate releases. Comes out for the Wii U on the 22nd. This, of course, being developed by Shigeru Miyamoto and his team at Nintendo. And this is just basically a soft reboot of Star Fox.
Because that's all they could do, is do the same thing over and over with Star Fox.
Well, they did try to do something different with Star Fox. It was called Star Fox Adventures. Yeah, go look and see how people reacted to that.
It's the internet, I'm not going there.
Well, this time they were a little bit justified, because holy crap, that game was a train wreck. Anyway, this is, Star Fox. It's scrolling shooter. Star Fox Guard actually looked a little interesting, though. You kind of use the gamepad in interesting ways. But, it's Star Fox. It's a Miyamoto game. He hasn't steered us wrong yet. I mean, he's come close a few times, but he has not steered us wrong yet. So I'm going to go a very slight play on this.
No, I can't do it. Until they figure out something other than, well, we're just going to reboot Star Fox. Give me something. Give me something different. I flipped you shit. It's the gummy ship with the fox in it. That's Star Fox. I could go play the Super Nintendo game, which was enjoyable, which we were unable to really finish. but that was enjoyable, then play it again.
Okay.
Nate.
Alright. Okay, sure. Alright, so that's going to do it for Player Nate for this episode. Let's move right along. Co-played game for this episode was Bastion. Developed by Supergiant Games and published by Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. It was originally released July 20th, 2011 on the Xbox 360. I played it on the PC version, which released on December 9th of 2011. It was released on iOS, Apple, in 2012. And then sometime in 2015, it was released on the PlayStation 4 and Vita, which is the version Randy played. This game is a very beautifully designed game. In it, you play as the character is literally just called the Kid, and it's narrated by Rux. Very kind of got gravel in his gut kind of voice, and you're basically trying to figure out what happened to the city after basically the apocalypse. It's called the Calamity, and you're just trying to rebuild the titular Bastion. Holy crap! Ding, English counter.
I want an counter.
No. Damn it. Damn it.
Okay, so let's just get this going right off the bat. I enjoyed this game.
Yes.
The gameplay was pretty simple,
yes,
but enjoyable. As you said, it's a very beautiful game.
Yeah. Art direction and music are both fucking amazing.
Absolutely. The art direction is great. The music is the best part of this entire game.
Yeah.
The art direction also leads me astray at times with the whole floating platforms that appear as you get there kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I understand why they did it. I'm sure it saved on a lot of stuff, as it's basically them loading in the level as you're going. Mm-hmm. I'm sure is part of the reason. But after a while, I mean, nothing new comes of it. Mm-hmm. But here's my problem with this game. You have a narrator. The narrator never, ever shuts up. But I have no idea what happened in this game. I played through this entire game. I cannot tell you a single thing about Bastion, like the Bastion, or the story of Bastion. Because after a while, that voice was turned off in my head, and I didn't care anymore. I went and I played it. I knew I had to get to the crystal at the end of the level, or an item at the end of the level, and that was it. Because that voice telling me, well, he swung at this, shut up. I mean, it's wonderful. I'm sure people love it.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoy the game. I just can't tell you the story of Bastion. I can't do it. I have no idea.
Well, essentially, it's you trying to uncover kind of what happened as the Calamity, and it's essentially the Bastion was a research project collaborated on by scientists of both human and Ura, which is another race in the game origin. And you find out during narration that there was an Ura scientist that basically rigged, because the Bastion was actually designed as a weapon. And the Ura scientist basically rigged the Bastion to fail and explode and cause the Calamity. And so you spend most of the game trying to rebuild the Bastion, and you kind of get this information piecemeal as the game goes by. And because you get the information piecemeal, you also meet two other, the singer and the survivor, who are Zia and Zolf, respectively. And Zolf finds out about the betrayal that led to the Calamity, but he doesn't find out all of the necessary information, so he gets the entirely wrong picture of it, and just flips his shit. Basically, to use wrestling terminology, he turns heel on you. Like, he suddenly goes from, hey, thanks for saving me, to, fuck you guys, here's a whole bunch of Ura to wreck your shit in, like, half a second flat. And then from that point, it basically becomes a revenge quest. You have to catch up to Zolf and bring him to justice, essentially. And while you're running through the last level, the narrator is talking to Zia.
The narrator's talking.
Yes.
Yep.
And I keep calling him the narrator. He does have a name. It's Rux, but it's kind of, it's the narrator. But, he's you find out in the last level that he's based the entire time he's been talking, he's actually been telling the story of the game to Zia as the kid goes on the final mission to bring in Zolf. And you do that, and you get Zolf basically gets turned on by the Ura because the Ura realize he just screwed them all because now they have a very pissed off kid with a huge fuck off battering ram, which, by the way, the battering ram is one of the most cathartic parts of the game for me. Being able to just sit there and rain death and destruction down just with a button press. Yep, that was pretty fun. Yeah. But anyway, it's at the end of the game, you get the first option you get is you can either take Zolf with you after he gets injured and leave the battering ram, or you can say, screw him, take the battering ram with you. This was one of my main problems with the game, and it'll continue on to the actual ending, is that there wasn't really much of a difference between the two options. It was essentially, if you take Zolf, you don't shoot at all the enemies, surrounding you. Or if you do, you take the battering ram and kill all the enemies surrounding you. But, very little dialogue, no dialogue changes. No changes in the resulting ending. It's just, well, do you kill all the Ura, or do you not? Because you literally can't die in that segment either. They take away your health bar, and it's literally just you either walk through with Zolf's body, or you walk through the battering ram wrecking shit. And I kind of felt that was a little bit, a little bit of a cop-out to go, hey, here's a choice that essentially means nothing. Especially when Telltale's been kind of getting a little bit of shit for it lately, too. But, you do that, and then you get back to the Bastion, and Rux reveals he was one of the scientists that helped with the Bastion, and the Bastion has two last tricks up its sleeve. One of them is the restoration protocol, basically, which basically throws the entire world of Bastion back in time to before the Calamity, so that everybody can try again. And, everybody can try to get along instead of going to war like they did. Or, you can overload the Bastion one last time, destroy all the shards and the cores, and stay in this broken world forever, because once it's broken, there's no take-backsies. So, you do your last little talks with both Rux and Zia, and they kind of tie up a few kind of loose ends, sort of, if you squint. And then you press X at the monument and you make your choice, and Rux gives you about a minute of narration about, what you just did, and then the credits roll. And, I did play through both endings of this game on stream, and there was one viewer who was there for both of them. Hi, Lily, if you're listening to this, by the way. And she didn't like the first ending because it was abrupt, and then we went back and did the second ending, and her immediate response as soon as the credits started rolling after the narration was just as underwhelming the second time. And I kind of have to agree with her. Because I was liking the story, I was liking the gameplay, even if it is a bit simple. The art and music were both, again, outstanding. But then the ending comes, and it's just a giant non-starter. Well, I guess in this case, non-ender. Because it's just kind of like, okay, that was a thing.
It's one of those indie games that tries to be more than it is, and make that big choice, but then there's no follow-up. Sure, if you really want to sit down and think about it, that decision is very difficult. But when that's it, and then you get the credits, that doesn't impact you the same as, okay, make this decision, and then the next 3 hours of gameplay is based off of this.
Yeah.
And you get something completely different.
Yeah.
So then that really impacts you. There are way more examples in video games of a huge decision that you had to make that really impacts you because it changes the way the game works, or the people that are in your party, or anything like that. So just the fact that they give you this really tough decision, and then it's credits.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, if you want to be all artsy-fartsy, which this game obviously really focuses more on being artsy-fartsy than a video game, which is totally fine. I very much enjoyed the gameplay of this.
Yeah.
But it very much focuses on the art than the video game. And you want to sit there and play it and get to the ending and then sit down with somebody and really discuss it. And then that's how you really want to have that be impactful. I understand. Wes and I aren't that.
Yeah.
We don't, it's okay. credits. Cool. I want to see the results of my decisions. I want something.
Okay. Here's something that I just remembered I wanted to ask you. When you beat this game, what was your original decision at that ending?
I left it as it was.
So did I. I'm actually kind of that was actually kind of interesting to me because I could have seen you going either way, but yeah, I stayed because Zia has a line that struck me, and that was all of my best memories are after the calamity, not before it. And why would I want to go anywhere else?
Yeah, and here's the other thing. To me, it's the way I interpret it as well. Okay, we can take it all back. Mm-hmm. It's all going to happen again.
Yeah.
Nobody learned anything.
Yeah.
From what I took of it, like you said, the memories go away.
Yeah.
So everyone has no idea this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen again. So why go back and then just relive this shit?
Yeah.
It's over, move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's there are a couple of vague hints that, something different might happen, but no. That was my interpretation of it too, was all it does is just literally hit the reset button on the universe. It doesn't send somebody back with foreknowledge to be able to try to fix anything. It just goes, rewind!
Now see, if this game had given you that decision and you go back and it goes boop and restarts your game,
yeah,
and then maybe small things are different, I wouldn't know what they could do. I'm not saying that it was a whole new experience, but maybe just small decisions are different along the way. Wonderful, great decision. But just the fact that both decisions lead into a minute cutscene, and that's it. Mm. And then credits roll, and goodbye, Felicia. It just, I don't know, it's missing something that they could have had where it could have been even more impactful, I guess. But again, to me, I kind of lost touch of the narrative because it was literally, I want to enjoy this level. Mm-hmm. Every level I got into, I would like to enjoy this. And to be honest, most of my gameplay for this game was at work.
Yeah.
This was my on-the-break game, which worked well with the Vita. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I lost a little bit of some graphic quality on it, but it still looked wonderful on the Vita.
I don't see why not. It's a 2D game for the most part.
Well, just...
Well, no, sorry.
The aspect ratio and whatever. But to me, it worked out really well because those levels are pretty short. So I can get through a level or two on a break and just continue on. But it was I would get into it and he's just trying to batter you with stuff. And I just want to beat shit up right now. Just shut up for a minute. We'll have a cutscene in 30 seconds. It's cool.
Yeah.
We had a cutscene. Why are you still talking? I mean, I understand it. It's them not trying to have 20-minute cutscenes in between.
Yeah. And
for that, I'm okay with it. But it was just him narrating that I punched a bush. It was okay, I get it. And a lot of the way he said things, after a while, just got irritating.
Yeah. I kind of agree with some of the random aspects of him commenting on if you do stuff in gameplay, whatever. I did think it was effective. One of the early levels, you see a whole bunch of people turn to stone because of I think it's implied that it's part of the calamity is why they're turned to stone. And you do have to destroy some of them to progress. And as you either destroy them or walk by them, he'll name them, give a little bit of story, and then go, didn't make
that stuff is totally fine. It was just some of the mundane stuff.
Yeah, the incidental stuff.
I think that took the impact away from that kind of stuff. There's other times where he would be going to a part and he goes, and the kid thought about this. I'm cool with that because again, near the end, you realize, as you said, he's basically telling this story up until this point.
Yeah.
So he's really being able to tell you what he's thinking, and this is how it worked. So it worked out beautifully there, but it was just at times too much because he would not shut up.
I guess it's just kind of a difference of opinion on this because I never found the narrator annoying. In fact, one of my favorite, I bought this game and the soundtrack a while back when it was on sale, and it's always been kind of on my two playlists. So again, this is another game I appreciate the fact that the podcast exists for because I probably wouldn't have gotten around to it otherwise.
And the soundtrack.
soundtrack. Yep.
Ooh, yes.
Oh my
Absolutely.
lord. And that is solely for the three vocal songs on this soundtrack. That are in the game are amazing. So that would be Build That Wall, Mother I'm Here, and Setting Sail, Coming Home, which is the end credits song. Yeah.
So I just have to say, Darren Korb, well done, dude.
Yes. But here's why something that I think will illustrate the difference between us. What would be your reaction if I told you there is a song on the soundtrack that is not in the game, that is the narrator has an original song?
I'm glad they cut it.
See, that's my favorite song of the soundtrack. So I think that kind of illustrates the difference between us. Is I was like, okay, more the narrator, that's cool. You're like, oh hell no. Yeah.
Well, it's just, I mean, what else can you say? It's just.
But so gameplay wise, here's another little interesting question. Before you got the Calamity Cannon and the battering ram, what weapons did you primarily use?
Oh, geez, I don't remember. I think it was a rifle and whatever I beat shit with.
The Kale Hammer, the original hammer? Yeah.
No, it was, don't you get a sword at some point? I'm blanking right now as far as what weapons I had.
The machete.
The machete. Maybe? I think I went nuts with that machete for a while until I got the hammer.
Well, the hammer is the original weapon.
I meant the
first weapon. The battering. You meant the battering.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. I usually stuck with the original hammer, and then I also used the dueling pistols a lot.
Yeah, I didn't shoot a lot.
Yeah.
I hack and slash my way through this thing.
So again, kind of a nice little dichotomy
there. Yeah, and again...
And another proof of this game having some pretty varied gameplay, even if it is pretty simple.
Yeah,
because, for example, I didn't use the machete very much. I, used it for the level you got it in, and I immediately went back to the armory and went, hammer, hammer, yeah.
Isn't that like a long staff or a pole or something?
Yeah.
That was the one I used once, and no, get this away from me.
Yeah, that too. I basically used that thing and for the one boss battle where it's kind of required, and then I went, eh.
But yeah, listen, it might be one of those games I go back and goof around with on the Vita, but I will definitely be putting the soundtrack on my phone and playing that, and then muting the game.
Yeah. I do want to, it does lend itself to replayability, though.
Yes,
absolutely. Because it has New Game Plus, and then the Shrine with the idols in it that you can turn on to basically inflate the difficulty even more if you want. Yeah,
well, it's not only that where you can, bump up different things or whatever, but it has all of the challenges that you can get to. I don't know if you mess around with that much. I did at the beginning a little bit, but then after a while I was like, okay.
I think I accidentally... I didn't do any of the weapon challenges that were on the map, but I remember I stumbled into, one of the dream sequences, and it's really difficult, and I was like, oh god, what's happening? Oh god, because it was on stream blind, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot that you can play with after the fact, for sure.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about Bastion?
Would you play the sequel if they come out with one?
Yeah, that's a direct sequel to Bastion, yes, but that also brings up another point. They do have a second game out that is not Bastion related. They also developed Transistor.
Oh, that's them?
Yeah.
I haven't played that, but...
Yeah, Transistor was their second game, which has a bit more of a tactical battle system almost, because you can freeze time in it.
I think I have that game on my...
You actually do. I saw it while we were recording Family Fun Friday earlier today. But because I think it came out as a PS Plus title at some point.
Yeah.
It basically, they once again focused on the music a bit, because I've heard some of the soundtrack for this game, including one of the vocal tracks, and I'm like, yes, please. Yeah. If they made a direct sequel to Bastion, I'd play it, and then I also at some point want to get around to playing Transistor.
Yeah, I'd be interested.
So, yeah. I can't think of anything else I want to cover on Bastion. Maybe some articles later on it, because we are starting to kind of get back into that a little bit. we'll go ahead and move along to Randy's game. And, Randy, take it away.
This is an art. Okay, I'll go through it before I get into it. Tearaway is developed by Media Molecule, who are the people that made Little Big Planet. It's published by Sony, Sony Europe, to be exact. Released November 22nd, 2013. And basically, Tearaway is that artsy-fartsy game that, to me, works extremely well. The thing about Tearaway that makes it unique is everything in the game is made out of paper, and they do a great job with that aspect of really doing puzzles differently, not just the design. So, like, remember how when you're a kid, you had, like, pop-up books? That's what this entire game was a giant pop-up book. So there were mini puzzles where you had to pull on the little tabs that you would on pop-up books. But to do that, you actually had to use a touchscreen, which, again, this is on the Vita, or originally on the Vita. It came out for the PS4, but I played the original. So it uses the front and back touchscreens extremely well and really make you feel like you're part of it. To the fact that there are many puzzles where you have to put your finger on the back touchscreen and it pops a finger through the paper on the bottom, which either will allow that finger to move a piece over to where you want, or to kill enemies, or just to bounce the messenger around and help him get to places he couldn't. So, that's what I love about this game. It came up with a unique design, and then used that design to make the puzzles and the gameplay completely unique.
And it also utilized the mechanics on the Vita very effectively. Like the rear touchscreen, like you were just explaining.
That's what I just went over.
Sorry, yeah. I was trying to summarize and I kind of failed. My bad. Nailed it!
But yeah, this is the perfect Vita game. Because it is. I mean, yes, again, it came out for the PS4, but the original game was perfect for the Vita. The other thing that they do that really makes the Vita very interesting and makes the game fun, I didn't get into it that much, but there are a lot of times, so basically, I'll just go over the story before I go into that. It's, you play as the little messenger dude, and he has to get the message to the the person in the sun, because the sun has opened up, and it's created all sorts of havoc, and the person in the sun is you. And it's always you, because every time they show the sun, your front camera comes on and shows you. The whole time. And it's there. So you can make faces, you can goof around, whatever.
Like hold up your middle finger to the camera.
Whatever.
Giant ball of orange with a middle finger in it.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. So, and that's the whole thing. And they're even saying, oh, the messenger has a you. That's what you're called, is a you. And so you're helping him along the way deliver his message. And so while you're doing all of that, you run into people that are going, like one dude's like, I would really just love a mustache. I've never been able to grow a mustache. I would love a mustache. And all of a sudden a menu would pop up with a bunch of mustache ideas, and you pick it and you put it on there. And, oh, I have a mustache! And it just gives you bonus stuff. Or it says, oh, it's rainy or it's snowing outside, but it's not snowflakes, it's something completely different. And it brings up a menu where you have a bunch of scrap paper, and you bring the scrap paper down, and you can cut out whatever you want, and whatever you make now is what is coming out of the sky the whole time. Or you make the flames on a torch, or just, it allows you to be super creative. I love, near the end, like, you ride a pig a couple times, just a different kind of gameplay element. But the last pig's like, I'm bored with this color. Give me something else. And it turns on the back camera, and you can take a picture of anything. And whatever pattern you took will now be the pattern of that pig.
That's awesome.
And it will do that on several different things. Or late in the game, they're saying the messenger wants to say, or the you wants to say something, and all of a sudden your microphone is on, and you say something, and it records it. And then plays it back. And then as you're going through this thing, which is this really trippy thing. It's playing that over and over and over, like changing the depthness of your voice, or making the volume high and then slowly going low, and just messing around with it, just saying your chant over and over, which mine was la la la, because I didn't know what to do. So my game just went la 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 la. This was a bad decision.
Milk was a bad choice. Oh, sorry.
But it's a lot of fun. It throws so many different elements at you, and it allows you to be as creative as you want, or not. I mean, because you can skip a lot of this stuff. And at the end, the message was decent enough, because it's basically, you had to get the message across, and about how a lot of times the message doesn't reach people, and people don't tap into that creative side of themselves like they should, and in the end, the story was supposed to be one thing, but you and the messenger have turned it into something else. It's basically showing you that, listen, game creators can only do this. It's up to you, kind of like with Bastion, to turn it into something else, to take the message that they're trying to give you and make it something bigger, if you wish, or something completely different. Like, our gameplays were completely different on Bastion. If you played Tearaway, it would be completely different. You would be taking different pictures of stuff. You would be putting different facial features on things, and just taking different things away from it. So it's really one of those games where it's just... I've always liked Media Molecule, of course. I love Little Big Planet. I'm really excited for
Dreams.
Which they showed off at, was the last two E3s or just this last E3? I think it was just this one.
I think it was just this one too.
But I'm excited for that one. But yeah, if you haven't played Tearaway and for some reason you have a Vita, do yourself a favor, because Tearaway is easily so far the best Vita game I've ever played. And the reason why I wish Sony would have stuck with it, because games like this make the Vita. And it would have been great if they would have continued to give the Vita support so other developers would look at Tearaway and go, oh, that's cool, we could also do this.
Yeah. Yeah. The Vita is really unfortunate because, in hindsight, there was a lot of cool stuff they tried to do with it. But then they kind of countered that with some of the dumber decisions they made with it. Like, the fact that they ditched the perfectly viable Memory Stick Pro Duo and went with yet another completely proprietary memory card thing. And it was just like, really?
Hold on. A very expensive memory card.
Yeah, actually, let's just put it that way. If they were cheaper, people wouldn't have bitched as much. But the fact that I think like a 64 gigabyte was like, what, $100 originally?
I don't know. I bought a small one, like an 8.
Yeah.
And I have no problems deleting shit. I delete things all the time on that Vita.
Yeah. But that's kind of a story for another time. Did you like the music in this at all? It's like, because we kind of went into the audio design of Bastion a bit.
So here's the thing: the Tearaway music is perfect for Tearaway. Like it fits where you're at all times. It's not something I would buy the soundtrack for. Yeah. It's so tough to explain, but it sounds so awkward a lot of the times, but it fits the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because the game is awkward at times, but yes, the music is very enjoyable, but don't look it up on YouTube and just listen to it, because it's weird.
Yeah. Okay, and obviously, art-wise, you already kind of covered that it's damn amazing art-wise as well.
Yeah, just the fact that everything is paper. We have those Lego games.
Yeah.
That everything's Legos. But just to take that, but then make it paper, and then, as I said earlier, basically make your entire game a giant pop-up book, where you have to open things and close things, and things work just the way paper would, where wind would change the effects of things. And it was just really well done. And just the fact that, fighting enemies gets tedious because there's not much to do. Mm-hmm. It's beyond basic. You have your normal enemies that will jump at you, and then when they jump, they're now dizzy. You can pick them up and throw them like a rock.
Yeah.
Or roll into ones with longer legs, or after a while you get a gun that you can suck in enemies and then shoot them or blow them with air to try to push them off the thing. So, I mean, there's no real bosses or anything. But it's just one of those, it's a platformer that you're there for the scenery, you're there for the puzzle platforming, really, instead of battling enemies.
Yeah. So, you said the battles were pretty easy. Did you have any problems with the platforming at all, or?
There are times where it will test you a little bit. Sometimes the camera will get to you. It's not the best camera. But for the most part, it's pretty simplistic, and the checkpoint system is very, very forgiving. So, I mean, there's no lives or anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I probably died 50-ish times. It tells you at the end. But around 50 times, and I would say 95% of those were me just misjumping on something.
Okay.
But it was never any point where I just could not make the jump.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, it kind of sounds like it's Media Molecule. You know, they made Little Big Planet, and they do kind of go for the, you know, all ages kind of philosophy.
Yes.
So they didn't, you know, turn the masochism up at all, like, you know, Mario Maker levels. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to have my 7-year-old sit down and play Tearaway and see kind of what he thinks. Because he might enjoy that game.
Yeah. Sounds interesting. Granted, you'll have to do it after the next episode for reasons we'll get into later. But, yeah. Anything else you want to hit on Tearaway that I haven't asked you a question about? Or
Keep the Vita alive so I can play Tearaway too.
Yeah, you might have some problems.
It's over. Right.
It's been over for a while. Which, again, I way back on a 4-player co-op that I'll try to dig up for the show notes, I basically, there was a question about the handhelds, and I basically went into why exactly the Vita failed, in my opinion. And, yeah, I'll have to dig that up, because I'm blanking on it now, but I know I've talked about it a bit on a 4-player co-op. So, yeah, that'll about do it for Tearaway. That just leaves my game for this episode, which was the Banner Saga, developed by Stoic and published by Versus Evil. It released January 14th, 2014 on the PC, and then also just recently, PS4 and Xbox One got a version of it on January 12th of this year, 2016. This is kind of, I want to say it's one of the kind of original Kickstarter games, because it did have a fairly successful Kickstarter. But it's a very heavily like Nordic influenced tactical RPG, and it's got a very very deep focus on story and character. Which is an interesting little combination, and and you can definitely see why they had to go to Kickstarter, because most traditional publishers would have taken a look at their concept and gone, "Oh, not just no, but hell no," you know, because it you know, just kind of the elevator pitch of it's a tactical RPG with story and characters, and oh, by the way, it's basically set in Nordic times at the end of the world. We'll get right into the story, because that is the main draw of the Banner Saga. You play as, you switch viewpoints, in this game, several times. You play as either, I believe it's Varl. I may have that pronunciation completely wrong, but they're basically giant, horned men, like horned Vikings, pretty much, trope. And you start off the game as them, and you're going through the western part of this continent collecting taxes, and you suddenly run into a caravan with the Prince of Men in it, and basically the Prince of Man is traveling to the capital of the Varl to kind of renew their treaty, and then you suddenly get attacked by enemies called the Dredge, which are like these stone creatures that just came out of nowhere and just kill everything in their path. and the next in line for the kingship of the Varl dies during this confrontation, protecting the Prince of Men. And then, at this cliffhanger, you switch over to a human by the name of Rook and his daughter, Alette. And they're just kind of trying to survive in their small little village when they get attacked by the dredge. And they end up taking a caravan of the survivors from the village and going westwards towards the capital of the Varl to try and get away from the dredge. And the game switches back and forth between the two caravans as they meet in a central point. And along the way, you basically find out, more of the backstory of the world. Essentially, it's set in the end times. The apocalypse is pretty much happening as you play this game. Because the gods of the world are established as being dead for a long time. The Varl themselves were created by one of the gods, and that is the only way they were created. And since that god is now dead, whatever Varl are remaining on the planet are it. Once the last Varl dies, there are no more Varl, period. Which, sounds really redundant when you say it out loud like that, but it made sense in my head. And along the way, in both in charge of both caravans, the game offers you kind of moral choices. There's one early on where the dredge attack you, and they manage to get a hold of your treasure cart, or they get thrown into their treasure cart, and they're holding on to it, and it's sliding towards a cliff. And one of your named characters, grabs onto a tree and then tries to grab the cart. He's a Varl, so he's super strong, and he's trying to do this, but he's losing the fight. And you kind of have options to okay, do you tell him to let it go? Or do you try to help him, or do you try to order somebody else to help him? And then you choose that, and it gives you another path, another decision to make. And based on your decisions, stuff kind of changes in the story. They did pride themselves on, one of the things they said was that your choices would matter in this game. And here's where my first problem with the Banner Saga is. That is 90% bullshit. Or I guess maybe we're just working off of a different definition of matter. Because, yes, you do get some slightly different text for some results. And yes, there are one or two instances besides the very end of the game where a choice will result in something actually significant happening. At the example I just gave you with the Varl trying to hold the cart. If you do not tell him to drop the cart, it and him both fall and die. And you lose that character permanently, obviously. So, that's one of the only choices I found that had an actual significant impact on the game. There's another one where the Prince of Men, his name is Ludin, and he is 100% an absolute arrogant asshole. Pretty much every time he was on screen, I would comment on stream that I wanted to punch his face in. But I didn't want to do it simply for storyline reasons. I was like, that would probably be very bad because he'd probably leave the party. So, my first playthrough through the game, I resisted the urge to punch him, and he stayed in the party until the end. Well, the second time through the game, because I did complete this game twice for a reason we'll get into here in a minute, the second time through the game, I immediately went, okay, I'm done with you. I've already seen what happens, if I let you be a dick. Here's what I think of you, and I chose the option to knock him out cold and send him home. Because the scene where you're allowed to do this is he's trying to convince you to let him fight alongside you, even though the first time he tried to fight, he nearly got gutted like a fish. And he's just being a condescending prick the entire time. So I finally just went, okay, nope, get out of here. And sure enough, he got out. You lose him, you lose his bodyguards. Which kind of sucks, because one of his bodyguards has an amazing ability that basically allows you to control the board during battles. Excuse me. But, I guess, we'll finish up with story real quick here. You meet in the middle, and, essentially, you find out that the Dredge are actually running away from some blackness that is starting to engulf the world. And then you also find out that there is a world-eating serpent on the loose that is literally breaking the world in half. That also wants to kill you. So basically, the world of the Banner Saga is entirely and completely fucked, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. It is a very bleak game. There is no happy ending in this game. So, eventually you find that the Dredge themselves are being led by an immortal, like, Sunder is the name they're given. But basically, the leader of the Dredge is a Sunder by the name of Bellower. And, pretty much every time he shows up in the game, you get your shit wrecked. Until, finally, at the very end, there is a character by the name of Juno who is a very powerful mage. And, she eventually gets you and, gets you to get a piece of one of the Godstones, which are spread throughout the lands. And she tells you to forge an arrow and shoot Bellower with it, and then you can kill him. Well, the main character, Rook, immediately calls this out as bullshit. He goes, after all this time, you're going to tell me what we need to do to kill this immortal, machine of a Dredge is just shoot it with one arrow? And at this point, because nothing can ever go well for you in Banner Saga. At this point, Juno tells you, yeah, no, actually it won't kill him. It'll just injure him enough so that I can use my ability, which is to slightly influence minds, to make him believe he can be killed, at which point you will help him in that illusion by hitting him a whole bunch of times. And then he'll fall over thinking he's dead for a while, and eventually he'll wake back up and be super pissed, but we can, get him out of our hair for a while. Yeah. And so that leads to the very final choice of the game is Rook and Alette, and throughout the game, it's the standard father-daughter relationship kind of tropes going on. The father's being really super protective, etc., etc. And Alette does get a few moments to kind of shine and show her that she's capable of doing things. And the very last choice you're given is Alette comes to you as Rook, and she basically says, hey, I've figured out what's going on here. Juno's going to make you shoot an arrow and kill Bellower, right? And Rook basically goes, yeah, let me do it, Dad. And your final choice is, okay, who's got the arrow to shoot Bellower with? So you make that choice, and then you go into the final battle with Bellower. And, essentially, you have to make a successful strength attack against Bellower, to go into this final phase of the fight with the person that has the arrow. And once you do that, the game takes over, a cutscene plays, and Bellower kills the person who took the shot. No matter if it's Rook or Alette, that person just straight up dead. And then you have to take your remaining party and finally kill Bellower, and then the game ends. And it plays the ending cutscene. So that's the story. Combat-wise, this game is a very kind of interesting tactical RPG. You get your party and then whatever enemies you're facing, whether they be human or Dredge, and they're placed on the board, and it's an isometric square-based board, and you can move around, attack. There are special abilities, and you also get what's called willpower to be able to expend to either move farther or hit harder. It's basically kind of like MP, magic points in Final Fantasy Tactics or Disgaea. And you have two health values, basically. You have armor, which helps decrease the amount of damage you take, or you have strength, which is both your HP and your attack value. So the less strength you have, the less damage you do. And armor, I forget the exact relationship, but the more armor you have, the less strength damage you take. So you have to kind of balance between damaging their armor and being able to hurt them more with the next strength attack, or taking out some of their strength so their next attack doesn't hit quite as hard. which is a kind of interesting little, choice dynamic. And then the other thing I find interesting about the Banner Saga is it is literally one person on your team goes, and then a person on the other team goes, or an enemy goes. And then a person on yours goes, enemy goes, etc., etc. And this is where it gets interesting, because that happens regardless. There's no speed stat or anything. So if you kill an enemy, it's, they'll, the enemies will go around in their turn order faster because suddenly you outnumber them, if that makes sense. So it kind of becomes a thing of managing, okay, do I kill this guy now just to get him off the board, or do I leave him super weak just so he's soaking up an enemy turn, because this guy over here I haven't even touched yet and he has 20 strength, sort of thing. So there are a lot of interesting trade-offs in the battle system of the Banner Saga. It's fun for a few battles, but here's the thing, it does get a little bit repetitive. Because there is not a lot of combat variety in the original Banner Saga. It's, by the end of the game, you'll be like, oh, okay, so I have to take out another one of these huge dredge colossus with 20 strength. Okay, I guess I better send out, my frontline Varl and, okay, strength attack, chip his armor down with him. Okay, this guy's going to attack his strength and use a couple willpower to get him down to where he's not hurting. Okay, now we can start mopping up. And it becomes kind of routine. Instead of you going, okay, how do I do this? It's these guys again. Well, here we go. Was one of my main complaints. And then the other complaint I have with this game, I touched on it a little bit, is storyline-wise. Not a lot of the choices you do actually really seem to make an impact yet. Operative word being yet, because they were very clear from the start that this was the first in a trilogy of games. So there are a few plot lines that get introduced in this game that do not get resolved. And obviously, therefore, games 2 and 3 of the series. Speaking of which, game 2 of this series is set to release on the 19th of this month. So if this game sounds interesting to you at all, pick up 1, first of all, and play it, and then the second game comes out on PC on April 19th. Now, with everything I've just said about this game, I still am going to try to fit the second game in on my schedule at some point between now and the heat death of the universe. Because the setting is amazing. I do like kind of some of the directions they went with the story, and I'm really curious to see if they, manage to fix some of the issues with the battle system, like, the kind of sameness of it, the lack of enemy variety, and a little bit of the lack of customization also kind of hurts it a little bit, because there's very little you can actually, change about your characters. By the end, they're all pretty much going to be the same build from my 2 playthroughs of the game. But, yeah. Other than that, as is kind of a theme with this episode, the music and the art are both amazing in this game. It is hand-animated 2D sprites all the way down. And they're just very well done. The dialogue scenes are like fully, like comic book pages almost. They are very well designed, done, however you want to phrase it. And then the music is very orchestral and also very much puts you in like an Icelandic, like the Norse mood. Because it's very, got kind of like the brass section a little bit and the very deep-throated, male bass chanting. That very much puts you in like the age of like Norse mythology and Vikings sort of thing. This is how Viking kind of feel this game is. The end cutscene is whichever character died fighting Belor, they put them in a longship and sailed them out to sea with the boat on fire, which is, Viking funeral tradition. That, they gotta give you a feel for it. So, yeah, in conclusion, the game's good. I can see the potential. It's not exactly, oh my god, go get it right now, unless you're into kind of like story and choices. But it has its moments. So, any questions that you want clarification on, or?
I got two. So you're saying that the battle system got repetitive. Is it one of those where you go through a bunch of battles, or is it just like a battle per mission? How many battles are in this game?
I'd probably say there's a Steam achievement for I think it's 45 battles in one playthrough that I still do not have. But I cannot remember off the top of my. I wasn't keeping count. But it's essentially I would probably say you average about 5 like dialogue choices like the game, because again you're in a caravan and it's almost Oregon Trail like the gameplay outside of battles, because you just have a screen where your caravan is moving from either left to right or right to left depending on which character you're in control of. And, it's showing your progress, and you have, like, a morale you keep track of, and supplies you keep track of. When you stop at villages along the way, you can use some of your currency, which is actually renowned in this game. Like, because since the world's ending, there's not really a money system anymore. So you basically, by your actions and by killing enemies in battle, you get renown, because people and it's kind of interesting. It's basically... renown, I would probably say, is your standing in the world. You can cash in some of your, your reputation to get supplies, sort of thing. And, there are several times in the game where it sells it as either you're intimidating, like a merchant, or, somebody, or, just using your influence to get stuff you need. Yeah, I would probably say on average about 4 or 5 dialogue choices between each battle.
Alright, I got one more, and it's one of those subjective things. Mm-hmm. Obviously, people viewed different games differently, but you were talking about how, like, the choices didn't matter that much, mm-hmm. but it's, a very dire game. And
yeah.
So do you think it would have been more impactful with permadeath in the battles?
No. That would have made it very, very difficult. But if they had put permadeath in, they would have had to make some way for you to get generic characters. Because you do not actually have generic characters. Each and every character you can take into battle with you is also somebody at some point you have a dialogue with. Like and by dialogue I mean like BioWare, like an early BioWare, like, they say something and then you have option 1, option 2, option 3.
Yeah, well, if they die, then those just disappear. It happens with Fire Emblem all the time.
True, I suppose. But you also have the ability to recruit more characters in Fire Emblem, right? Like generics. I haven't played Fire Emblem, but...
I don't think generics, but you meet a lot of people along the way.
Okay. They would either have needed to make more, named characters, or give you an ability to, make generic characters, because I cannot think of a single battle where I thought it was possible to get out without taking at least one injury. Because there is kind of a consequence for a player for a character falling in battle, and that is that they're injured for the next few days of the caravan moving. And if you get into a battle before their injury recovers, they take a strength penalty equal to how many days they have left on their injury, which is usually, only 2 or 3, but that's a pretty big difference when your max strength is usually around the ballpark of 15. So if somebody loses like 2 or 3 strength for a battle, that's already a pretty big handicap, Let's see here. Yeah, as it is right now, I don't think permadeath would have been good. But if they had an option for, recruiting generics, or making it a little bit easier to, save characters, because there is no way to heal strength in this game. Outside of, there are a few items where if you're like saving up renown for like a good chunk of the game and not leveling up your units at all, or not buying supplies, you can buy them and they kind of give you a little bit more strength. But I don't think there's an actual, No, those are all like just flat bonuses to strength now that I think about it. Like +3 strength on equip. It's not you regen strength during the turn, it's you just get a flat bonus. So, as it stands, no. If they made a few tweaks to it to, make it hurt a little less if you did lose a character, maybe. But yeah, that was one thing that was a little bit annoying was, hell, I just realized if you do punch Luden in the face and send him away for that part of the game, he still comes back at the very end of the game, so you can use him in the last battle if you want. Granted, not a very smart option, because if you punched him in the face and he hadn't gotten any, promotions or anything, he's still going to be useless compared to the people you've had for the entire game. But just the fact that he's still there in case you want to use him is kind of like, okay, then why'd you even give me the option to punch him in the face? Yeah. Sort of thing. So, yeah. I'm kind of interested to see if they fix, some of these issues, if they make some of the choices a bit more impactful in 2, and if they kind of up the battle variety a bit. So yeah, I'll probably be giving 2 a shot here at some point, just because the world did hook me, and I do like the art and the music in this game. And gameplay was okay, if not great. So yeah, that will about do it for our games for this episode. Next episode, we will be co-playing ActRaiser for, I believe that's Super Nintendo, isn't it?
Yep.
You will be playing Max, the Curse of the Brotherhood, which I cannot remember what system that's on.
Playing on the Xbox One. I'm not sure if it's on anything else.
Okay. And I will be playing on Randy's Vita that he's going to let me borrow. Thank you. Uncharted Golden Abyss, because it is the only Uncharted game I have not played going into next month's release of Thief's End. So, complete my Uncharted experience, so to speak. And get me hyped, even more hyped for Thief's End, because that seems like a smart thing to do.
Yes.
Alright, so that will about do it for this episode of the Backlog Busting Project. There wasn't really anything we really wanted to cover in news roundup this episode. Go vote in the episode 34 vote. If you want to, before the candidate platforms. Candidate platforms will be coming out over the next 2 weeks. If you want, some of the background on these games, if you don't already know them, because they're all pretty popular games, honestly. But, don't forget about my stream streak is still going strong. It's at day 24 as we record this. It will be at day 26 when this episode airs and going strong. I've recently been getting back into Puzzle Pirates, which... it's weird. I knew that game was, kind of dead-ish, but the weird part about it is I've gotten more new followers in the last 2 days than I have in a while just off of Puzzle Pirates. Which is weird, because like I said, the game only has like 300 people on at peak times, But I'll take it, and I'll probably play more of it, because honestly, I don't have the capability to stream the Vita, and ActRaiser probably isn't going to take all of the 2 weeks. But anyway, yeah, Stream Streak's going to continue. Twitch.tv/backlogbusting. We've got Mario Maker Mondays, Family Fun Fridays on the YouTube channel. We're working on some stuff for the blog. You've done View from the Backlog.
Wes.
Yeah.
I've done another View from the Backlog. When's the last time you had a view?
Let's see here. That would be the original Fallout back when I was doing Fallout 3. So, yeah, that was wild.
Bad.
Moving on. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, Twitch, etc., etc. Do all that good stuff. You should probably know this by now if you're a dizzy end of the internet. And until next time, as Will Wheaton always says, play more games.
And vote for Hotline Miami too.
God, no.
You're probably gonna just butcher that on your review
candidate
thing.
platform.
Yeah.
Just have the joke be, what was it I posted? Just have the candidate platform for Hotline Miami 2 just be a bunch of middle finger gifs.